Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today I want to do a bit more work on my 20,000 bricks under the sea glass cabinet, where I've already got quite a few large constituent parts roughly in place. But today I'm going to focus on this top level here, where I think there's still room for one more big ship. Right, well, a very quick recap of the 20,000 bricks under the sea cabinet with its 4 levels. This one being the surface, then the near deep sea, the deeper deep sea down in a trench, and then what will be the 4th level right underneath there that's just full of storage at the moment, which will be all of the UV lit up very mysterious deep sea. So that will be probably the most interesting when it's done. But on this top level we've got the oil rig in the corner with the guy with the rubber ring. I think that's quite funny. And it's got its stanchions going underneath the glass shelf, being held on by magnets, and of course that oil pipeline. Then we've got this bad boy, who is having a whale of a time jumping through the surface of the water. And I absolutely love these perspective shots. They just look really great, don't they? Wow. And then the next one, with its hull underwater, is the fisher boat. A crab fisherman to be exact, with loads of crabs on the surface in their pots. And then last but not least, which may not last the full distance if we run out of space, the Eloise sailing boat with its pirate flag and its small keel. So all of the things on this surface level have got something transitioning into the level below, and that's something that we're going to continue today. Then the last thing we did for the second level is this sea tunnel, where we're going to have some sort of monorail system going on through it, and you can peer all the way through. So this end is under construction, and the far end will be a base built into the rock face. And what's going to make that one really interesting is the fact that you're going to be able to see into the inside of the base, where it's all dry, from the side glass of the cabinet. So there'll be kind of a cutaway there, and I think that'll be really interesting. And then the much bigger base on this level will also be built up to and over a rock face, and that's got its moon pool at the bottom for direct diver access through there, and then it's got its 3 submarines that it supports. Let's get this right. So we've got Jaws, Saws and Bores, the 3 submarines named after the tool that they've got on their second arm. And then there's loads of living space and science quarters and things like that all around the rest. So there's loads and loads of plants and sea life yet to add to that. And also to the main wreck, which will be directly under in a cabinet, but I'm thinking would be in a trench, as if this normal sea level gets deeper all of a sudden. So that'll be based on the Silent Mary, and that'll be absolutely covered with bright corals and all the rest of it. We won't have Jack Sparrow in a rowboat, and we won't have these deep sea cardboard boxes on this floor either when we get to it. So there's absolutely loads to do to make all of this perfect. And then the 4th layer, as I say, will be UV lit and full of all sorts of glow in the dark and neon pieces. So yeah, I think that's going to be great. But we do have room on this top floor, which I think we'll be finishing today, for one more vessel. And if I just reach behind me and grab that, it's this one, the Set 60095 deep sea exploration vessel. And the reason why we need this really is to have a much better link between the surface level and the level underneath. And we've got all these divers here and all their bases, but nothing on the surface giving them any supplies or support. So that is where this vessel comes in. And it's rather fantastic. We'll go through it in a bit more detail in a minute. But the main thing that I think will link everything together, apart from adding some keels and propellers and stuff to the underside, so it's like the others, is this crane, where we can have the rope going through the glass, coming out the other side with something interesting on. And I'm thinking the shark cage with a diver inside that comes with that original set. So yes, the final part of the puzzle for that top floor, I think we'll get done today. So I had lots of interest and suggestions for the sea tunnel from last time, so I thought I'd just whiz through those before we move on to today's build. And the main ones were all about reorganizing the order of all these panel pieces. You liked the fact that there was a white one periodically, but then you thought that it should be a regular pattern. So you'd have, as I've done now, a white section, then the trident, and then a number. And I think that works really well. I really wanted to keep the number as the panel that was open. So effectively, I've just moved that section all along. And then most of the other suggestions, I think, are to do with the surrounding area. So basically, I'll do those when this is finally in its place. I have put some tiles on these panel pieces that are spare and waiting to be used. Changed the colour of the tool that's being handed over by the rover submarine. And I've mounted the ray on a couple of transparent bricks just to give it a bit of height above the surface. But I think when this is all plumbed into another base in the corner, I think it'll be rather fantastic. I just love the shape of it and the fact that you can look down it. So we'll have to think about what goes in there. And I've already had a few suggestions on that. So anyway, if your suggestion was included, thanks very much. And here is your Bedoing. Good. Well, this ship is rather fantastic. I think you'll agree. And the set that it came from is even better, really. Comes with a little submarine, a little underwater drone, a kind of sea scooter that pulls along divers. Quite a substantial wreck, actually, of a trawler that I'm going to have to try and include in my cabinet as well somewhere. Maybe on that first underwater floor rather than the one with the massive, great big older ship. And also 5 divers and 5 big underwater beasties. So that's quite a fair match, 5v5. And it's a lot smaller than the more recent 60266 ocean exploration ship from 2020 because, well, that's literally double the size because it uses 2 of these hulls back to back with kind of a rough join in the middle to have this sort of puddle in the middle with its own crane. But I prefer this, especially for my cabinet, just because of the size that would be required. And it also reminds me of the real life boat that was actually an Arctic exploration vessel that the UK government funded. And they actually put it up for a naming competition. So if you're in the UK, you'll be very familiar with this story because it was national news. But if you're not from the UK, you may not have done. Basically, if you leave anything up to the UK public and then add the internet into the mix, you're going to end up quite quickly with a complete mess. Because what happened with that sensibly aimed naming competition for a very serious research vessel, it ended up that the vote got abducted kind of by people who are having a good laugh, and the name that got suggested and voted in by an absolutely massive majority was Boaty McBoatface, which obviously is an absolutely ridiculous, silly name for a research vessel. So they decided to not honour the naming competition and the vote that was national, and went with the very, very sensible, by comparison, RRS, Sir David Attenborough, RRS standing for Royal Research Ship, of course. So they're real spoil sports in not going with Boaty McBoatface, but what they did do as a bit of a consolation was name one of their remote-controlled vehicles that would come off the real-life ship, Boaty McBoatface, which it really should be Submarine McSubmarineface. Anyway, you get the idea. So I like this boat, and I kind of think of it as being Boaty McBoatface in Lego form. So it's really quite interesting. You've got a nice crane on the back that goes over here into the bottom. You've got this lovely sort of gap in the back. I really like the shape of this hull. You can remove the entire wheelhouse to have some beds underneath with bedside lamps and newspaper and so on. You can put the wheelhouse, which is fully loaded, on the inside back, but then just remove the central roof section, I believe. I'm going to break it now, am I? Oh, I've just broken it. From there, oh, there we go. That's how you do it. So you can peer inside at the captain's chair. Very good. And then you've got a nice boat on the front as well with an outboard motor, which I think is a really nice touch with a gear there as the propeller. So there is our cheerful captain. Nice stickers on the side. Nice buoys on the side, or buoys if you pronounce it like that. And I really like it. The only criticism I've got of this ship actually is the fact that the funnels for the engines are mounted, as you can see, right above a glass windscreen, and then, well, they go nowhere at all. I mean, They can't just start in midair, but they do. So that's something when I was designing my boats that I made real care that went all the way through the structure to the engine room. But yeah, so my builds are officially better than Legos, or at least a little touch more realistic. So what are we going to do today? Well, what we're going to do is, as we did with the crab boat, is kind of pull this hull apart. They do come apart relatively easy into the entire top bit and the bottom bit, because I believe all these hulls float if you want to play with them in the bath. But what I'm going to do with this section is put a rare earth magnet in loose in this whole section, probably some in the back corners here and some in the main body here. So when it's on the glass, I can mount another section onto the underneath. And what I'm going to do here is slightly different from the one I did before, where I had a great big single hull section. I'm going to add, well, lots of different sections, because if you look at real life multi-hull boats, which are ones that have more than one bit at the back, which is a design that they use for great stability, which makes a lot of sense on a diving support vessel. They have kind of often loads of different structures on the bottom, usually in pairs, one for each side. So usually you have two keels and then probably two rudders with propellers on. So I'm going to have the propeller bits kind of on the back of each of these sticks, and then I'm going to have two keels kind of more up in the body of the boat up here, and then we can worry about what we do for the gap in the middle for the crane section, supporting the diving cage, which will be protected from sharks and lowered down by string through that glass by the power of magnets in a buoy. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to start trying to make a construction in dark blue bricks that's going to be big enough to contain a magnet that's strong enough to hold its own weight through the glass. Alrighty, well, my first keel build is this. Very simple, dark blue bricks with yellow tiles, partially because I didn't have enough dark blue tiles, but also because, well, yellow does seem to be the accent colour already, so I figure it will give a nice line where the join of the two meet on that glass level. And I've made it this chunky just because, well, it needs enough space to hold a decent sized magnet inside it, inside these panel pieces. And that's so there's enough attractive force between the one on the inside, through the plastic, through the glass, which is quite thick, and through that tile level. So there's enough binding force to join the two reliably together. So that is the bit on the outside, and the partner in crime is on the inside, this disc magnet here. So I can just toss that into the middle, and then this will, where's it gone? Over there. Stick when the two are joined together, and I can move it around to just put it in the perfect position. So that is my first keel. I think it's quite effective, really. So I'm going to slide that one over to the far side while I put in its partner, which is exactly the same build, but this time I've added some modified bricks into the construction so they can take a bar piece with a grabber to hold onto two fish. Because I think it's often the case when you get a ship casting its shadow, lots of fish end up milling around underneath it. So that's what I think I'll do here, just to give it a bit of interest. So we're already getting a bit more sea life. So if I throw in another one of these magnets, then that one will also fit on. And I can fine tune these when they're in position, but they'll basically be in a pair like that, almost continuing down this diagonal line, which looks quite good, I think. Yeah, so there's the keels, which provide the stability for the ship. And I just love those fish on it, so that's good. So I'll put that there. Then we can move on to the back two. Now, these should be rudders, really, and therefore a lot thinner and sort of angleable. But basically, I can't make mine too much thinner because of the need for those magnets on the inside. So what I've come up with is this, which is pretty much the same. Not as deep, but just deep enough to have a nice bright yellow accent colour propeller on it as well. But in there is also a magnet you can see there. So that will effectively move from side to side the whole construction, presumably, and I can drop another magnet right into the corner there and have that clip onto there and move that around as I see fit. That feels about right there. And then we can do the same with another one. Drop that in there and go clump for there. Ooh, is that right? There we go. It's flipped over. Good. So there we've got a much more interesting, I think I can flip it right up and show you, construction on the underside with 4 elements, 2 keels and 2 rudders. And I think with those yellow tiles, they really look quite interesting. So I think that's going to look good on the underside of the cabinet as well. Yeah. Now the real life ship would have a whole section underwater as well. It's not that buoyant, but I don't think it's worth doing a great big dark blue construction that's going to be in shadow anyway. So I figure this will be a good enough interpretation. So that is the first section done. So now I think I can reintroduce the top section of this, because the next bit is going to be the shark cage hanging off the crane, and that doesn't need any magnets on the inside of the hull after all. Okay, so there is our boat with 3D elements in position. And it looks good from above, where you can see underwater to the rudders and the fish in the shade. Hello, Captain. And also from beneath, where you can see the underside of the ship. And I think it looks really good. The yellow lines I very much like, I must say. I don't think it's as good as perhaps the red crab boat hull, which is a lot more intricate and more standardized, I suppose, but I do think it still works. And it'll get even better when we add the shark cage going down through the middle of this pane of glass. And how I'm planning to do that is by using another one of these buoys, but with 2 magnets in, well, one in each half, straddling the glass shelf. So that's what I've done here with a buoy. And it's just so it can contain the magnet, because you can't really cut a magnet. I've had to include the plate as well. So we've got a round plate and a round brick on each side, and one supports the other. Now you would have thought that'd be great. So then I could basically get string going into the first one and then other string coming out of the second one. And then that would straddle the 2 levels. But the attraction isn't significant enough. If I show you by just putting on the shark cage upside down temporarily, by just pushing it onto that, you'll see if I just let it take the weight, there's absolutely no chance that that has got enough clinging power. I mean, it's not even close. Not at all. So essentially, this brick setup hasn't got enough space to hold a strong enough magnet to do what I want to do. Oh no! Well, nothing lost with that first attempt, I think. I can add a diving flag to that, and it can become a marker buoy to signify that divers are in the water and that other ships, like the crab boat, have to take good care not to come too close. Not that they're doing a very good job of that, of course. Anyway, for my second attempt, I basically went for a much bigger buoy, and that was so I could fit many more magnets onto the inside of what is this sort of small dome piece. So it's a bit of a bigger outsized buoy, but then again, it is supporting in environment a much bigger weight anyway, so maybe it's more realistic. So the top of this is attached to a string, which goes over there and all the way to the play feature reel there. So that's all good. And the bottom half, if I pick it up very carefully, is attached to the same piece that we used before, but orange this time, with one of the smaller magnets in. So hopefully the combination of the bigger magnet on the top and the smaller one underneath will be strong enough to support the string, the hook, and the shark cage, complete with diver, which is surprisingly heavy actually. I'll try and stop him swinging around in case you get giddy and sick watching it. There we go. Oh, but there is the effect that I was going for. Obviously, we'll have to slide this whole thing sort of into the section underneath the crane nearer the boat. But yes, oh wow, it really links the surface to the next level, given that we've got a diver kind of attached to the boat in between the 2 levels. And that, using the same colour scheme and the same everything, looks absolutely great. Now, I think if I knock this, it probably isn't strong enough to really clamp on. It will probably fall off, but there's no reason when the glass doors are shut that that would happen. So I'm really happy that the buoy is only that big, because I was getting worried that it would have to be even bigger and would look rather silly. But I mean, look at that for a view. Fantastic. You really can see some really 3D images, and that's why, oh yes, this cabinet, I think, is going to be absolutely great. So there, in one frame, is everything we've done today, and I've got to say, I'm very happy with it. Even the very small flag buoy is good. Well, I'm really happy with that. Getting it supported was not easy. This video may be slightly shorter than other ones I do, but it did take quite a long time to get the solution right, with the Kraggles sessions in between to get all of the glue done. But I'm very happy with the final outcome. And it does, of course, mean that we've actually completed one level of the cabinet, albeit the easiest one to do, the surface level. It's looking a bit congested. I may have to do a bit of shuffling of the ships. Do give me a shout if you've got an idea, or maybe I just need to get rid of the sailboat actually. But that is an absolutely great view. And having things suspended in midair that you can kind of look around and get views like this, or look up into where it's coming from above like that. And look, there's the crane operator right in the center middle. That looks absolutely great if you ask me. So yes, so very happy indeed. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And if you've got any suggestions for this video, do give me a shout and try and earn yourself a bedoing. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing part 5 of our mall build, then a brick haul on Wednesday, and then another mock build next Friday. So until all of that, see you! Why is he so scared when these divers are not even protected?